Do you want to play something really unique and really odd for your next playthrough of Starfinder? Buckle your seatbelts because we're gonna get weird and get ready for plant orgies. Today we're talking about the very tiny, the very liberal, dandelion-looking plant race, the Raxilites. Hello everyone, welcome to the Maple Table. My name's Nathaniel. This is a channel where we discuss lore around some of your favorite role-playing games, such as Starfinder, Werewolf the Apocalypse. If that's something you're interested in, I would love to have you join me at the table. You can do so by hitting that subscribe button and that bell notification so you don't miss an episode. Before we get into the history and sort of how weird this race actually is, let's talk a little bit about their stats first. What are you going to get for playing one? For starters, you're going to get +2 dexterity, +2 intelligence, and +2 charisma. That's right, a total of +6. It does come with a -4 strength though, and you will get only 2 hit points. Being a small tiny plant, you are very squishy. Raxilites will also have low light vision, but not dark vision. When you choose this character, you will have to choose between a flowering or a seeding Raxilite. But don't think you have to be locked into your choice once you've made it. You can switch between flowering and seeding as long as you have 1 week of in-game rest time to do it. When you're in the flowering mode, a Raxilite will get a +2 bonus to diplomacy and to bluff checks. A seeding Raxilite will gain a +2 bonus to their athletics check, and as long as they're on a planet or anything that has atmosphere, if they pass a DC 15 check, they can just negate any falling damage. They just put their seeds up in the air and float gently down to the ground. A Raxilite will also gain access to the Lifting Floret Activation Network. Essentially what this is, there's some vines that are attached to their brain stem, and they can use these vines as a human hand. All of the vines have to work in tandem. You can't use one vine per hand. But essentially it would allow them to use any one-handed weapon or one-handed item as if they were a medium creature with a reach of 5 feet. This tiny plant person has a 5-foot reach. This can also be combined with the Elfan symbiosis. When 2 or more Raxilites share the same 5-foot space, they can all use their Elfans together, and this will allow them to pick up something larger. Each Elfan counts as basically 1 human hand, but you can stack up to 4 of these together to just lift and move bigger things. And because they are similar to plants, but they are not plants, they will instead gain a +2 racial bonus against mind-affecting effects. This also counts to polymorph, poison, paralysis, sleep effects, as well as stun effects. Okay, now that we've got some of the basics out of the way, let's get weird. When a Raxilite reaches adulthood, they will sprout a flower out the top of their head. This is what a flowering Raxilite will look like. They are extremely social and pretty energetic. They're also pretty good with medicine and with biotech, and I'll get to that in a moment. A Raxilite can spend most of its life in its flowering form, and it can choose to change this, but most of them will keep the flowering form. Although when they do decide to have kids, and most of them do, they will go to their seeding form to do this. What's interesting to know about the Raxilite is it contains both the male and female reproductive organs. When they do decide to have kids, it requires 2 or more Raxilites to exchange pollen. They will then find a safe place to root down into the ground and release their seeds. This is much like a dandelion blowing in the wind. This is how they reproduce. Just as a Raxilite can spend most of its life in its flowering form, a Raxilite can also choose to spend its entire life in its seeding form. After the seeding babies have been blown into the wind, they will flower again within 1 week, typically. So, where do these dandelion perverts live? Well, they live on the planet Raxil. It's a warm, tropical paradise in the Vast. And the Vast is basically anywhere that's not the Pact worlds, the Veskarium, or the Islanti Empire. At least for now. Your average Raxilite will be about 16 inches tall or 40 centimeters, and they will have a lifespan of 70 years-ish, the longest living probably going closer to 100, and this is measured in Pact standard years. Basically, how they were found is a Lashunta exploration vessel found them by mistake. The vessel originated from Castrovel, and they found this planet and these weird plant people living on it. They had actually achieved a perfect symbiosis between themselves and their planet. The Raxilites at that time, they had extremely advanced biotechnology, and it's only gotten better over time. If you're curious more about Castrovel, please check out the video up here after finishing this one. The link will also be in the description below. The Raxilites, being very curious about the Lashunta, the planet that they came from, Castrovel, and the fact that the Raxilites had not achieved spaceflight, so they were just as intrigued by how this new race arrived at their planet as they were seeing other worlds. The fact that the Raxilites hadn't achieved spaceflight, or maybe they just had no desire since they had a perfect, idyllic society within their own planet, maybe they only became interested in spaceflight after they were visited by an alien race. That's how I would interpret this race, is that they had the ability but not the desire to go to space. Whatever happened there, the Raxilites did go with their Lashunta delegation to Castrovel and eventually onto the Pact worlds, where they got a protectorate status, and this happened just a couple of days before the Swarm attacked the Pact worlds and the Veskarium. During this conflict, the Raxilites provided assistance, usually in the form of medicine and biotech, because that's what they were good at. They also helped the Xenowardens advance their biomechanical engineering. After this event, the Raxilites went to work building their own biomechanical starships, and they are very, very advanced producers of biomechanical ships. If you've had a biomechanical ship in the Pact worlds or been on one, it's very likely that some of the tech, if not all of the tech, was provided by the Raxilites. In the known universe today, Raxil is the place to go if you want to get a biomechanical ship, or anything biotech related. Theirs is the most advanced and the most cutting-edge technological place that you could visit, at least when it comes to starships. Despite all the help that they've given and their good, kind-hearted nature, the Raxilites are actually very hard on immigration and importation. Tourism is also very highly regulated on Raxil itself. They want to preserve the ecology of their planet. In most cases, if you want to get Raxilite BioTech on your starship, you will be purchasing it through somebody in the Pact worlds. They act almost as the middleman for their technology. A direct deal from Raxil would be very, very odd and the outlier. Once space became open to the Raxilites, the young and the adventurous, and there was a lot of them, decided to go out into space and explore the universe. It was then that they discovered how actually short they are compared to everyone else in the galaxy. This inspired some Raxilite bioengineers to develop the Elfan, and that's how they accommodate for being their size. One thing that I haven't covered in great detail would actually be the Swarm attack. I've mentioned it in several videos, I haven't done something dedicated to it yet. But if you're looking for a timeline on that, the Swarm attack happened in 291 AG. This would also have been the time that the Raxilites were given their protectorate status. The Veskarium and the Pact worlds had been fighting for 200 years before this particular event. Once the Swarm attacked, it attacked both the Pact worlds and the Veskarium, and the two warring star empires had to put their differences aside, become buddy-buddies, and push back the Swarm. This is also how the Shirans came about. They were part of a hive mind of the Swarm, or at least a tribe of the Swarm, and something happened to them during the gap. They gained independence. When everybody sort of came back to after the gap, they took advantage of the Swarm's confusion to leave and form their own race. They're very, very fiercely individual. I haven't done a race on the Shirans yet. If there's enough interest, I mean, they are one of the core races. I probably should do them, but this is how they came about. So what do I think about this race? As I was looking for ideas to do for a race video, and this was suggested by one of the viewers, so thank you for that. As soon as I read plant orgies, I filled in the word orgies. That's when I knew I had to do the video on these little guys. The Raxilite would make a perfect caster class, being that you have bonuses to Dex, Charisma, and Intelligence. So you've got your Witch Warper covered, you've got your Technomancer covered, you also have the Mystic covered, just in those bonuses alone, so it wouldn't be difficult to make a good caster class out of this. You'll also be pretty good at communication skills because of that charisma bonus. There might even be some options for you as an envoy as well, as long as you're not one of the front up close fighter types, because that 2 hit points, that's not a lot. I personally think the Raxilite is extremely hilarious. The fact that it's based off of a dandelion, and you get a whole race out of that. It's a thing of beauty. The no falling damage could also have some very practical uses for you and your party as well, provided you can pass the skill check. Mind you, even at lower difficulties, that's still not going to be a difficult thing to do. If you want to play something a little different, definitely give the Raxilite a try. I would like to give a huge thank you to my patron supporters, Caneroot, Warpony, Ducky, Get of Mathrox, B.A. Bravo, and Aruthwin. Thank you all for your support for the channel. If you're interested in supporting me on Patreon, links will be in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up, and if you want to get more videos like this from myself, the weird and the wacky, hit that subscribe button with that bell notification. Up on the screen I will have other Starfinder races that I have covered, so please check those out. YouTube will have also made a recommendation for you. My name's Nathaniel. You've been watching The Maple Table. Thank you so much for your subscription. Thanks for stopping by, everyone.